All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar, and we talk leadership in the realm of boutique retail, right? So think wireless retail, think AV, think appliances, things outside of like big box retail. Typically, this type of retail also has a lot to do with services. So that's what we're focusing on. And we're talking about leadership in this realm. And one of the things I want to talk about today is this misconception that leading by example is always going to win. Listen, leading by example actually can be very overrated and it could be holding your team back from being truly successful. So let's take a look at this misunderstood cliche of leadership. Uh, Now, if your leadership style is just leading by example, right, you're not leading. So you're hoping your team is noticing what you're doing and can start picking up on what you're doing. A lot of people do this as a mistake. You hear it from the top down, lead by example, lead from the front, showcase what you can do. And yes, there is a method to this. But if all you're doing is just leading by example without actually training and developing the team, those following, you're not doing anything. You're hoping they notice, but you don't know where everybody is at. So you're not setting them up for success. You're actually overworking yourself as a leader by strictly just doing this. Okay. That's what you want to avoid. Now, let's get real. Your team isn't going to magically become top performers just because they watch how you work, how you hustle, how you sell, how you do things. That's not how that works. Okay. Leadership isn't about just showing how hard you can work as an individual. It's about coaching and mentoring and guiding others to perform without you needing to jump in. Yes, showcase how it's done and then come back. Now that you've given an example of how it should be done, you help train and develop them. You guys have heard me talk about how I helped turn my team around and during downtimes when they weren't working with clients, when they weren't actively with customers, we would work on callbacks. We would work on getting in touch and reach out to previous customers, especially those in the business world. I showcased how to do it, but I didn't do every single call. I didn't do my store visits, and every single time I do a store visit, I was the one making the first few calls for them. No, I would showcase, all right, if somebody needed some help or they were hesitant about jumping on the phone, about making those calls, about reaching out to customers, yeah, I made the first couple of calls, showed them what I expected from them, and showcased how easy it was. And then I turned it over to them. All right, Sky, here's the phone. Practice with me before you call, right? One, two, boom. Oh, that's all I got to say? Yes. All right. First call, out of the way. Super nervous. Goes to voicemail. Leave a voicemail. Second call, super nervous. Goes to voicemail. Leaves a voicemail. Third call, get somebody on the phone. They say thanks. Not at the moment, but it'll keep you in mind. Hangs up the call. Oh, that was super easy. It's only been 6 minutes? Yeah. Okay, I can do a couple more. You showcase something, you help them do it, you help them build the confidence to do it by training and developing them. Guys, I've said this before. You don't need to do fucking 8 hour trainings, 8 hour coaching sessions about theory. Showcase how it's done in the field. Train and develop in real time. And what you get from your team is faster confidence, habits that actually get a reward sooner, right? Remember the habit loop. In order to create habits, you have to have some kind of trigger that allows that habit to be formed. And that's what we want to do. We want to give them those quick rewards so they can start building those habits and it can start getting ingrained so that they can start acting on those faster and start getting rid of the bad habits or the old habits that they had that we want to transform. You don't do that by leading by example only. If your leadership is telling you, right? If your executive leadership is telling you lead by example, but they're not giving you something, one, I can tell you they don't know what the fuck they're doing in those leadership roles by not knowing how to train and develop other people. That's not necessarily their fault because maybe they were in the organization sooner than later. And because of that, they got into those roles because of their performance. Doesn't mean they know how to train people. You want to know what's an easy way to know if your organization actually knows what the fuck they're doing when it comes to training and developing people? If your organization is having to constantly hire outside people for leadership roles, it doesn't matter what level, that means they have no pipeline of developed and trained leaders from within. As crazy as a concept as it is, it should be very difficult to not have your own people not apply for jobs. Either you got really bad, terrible culture that your people don't want to move up within the organization, or you just don't know how to truly train and develop other people. There's nothing wrong with not knowing. Everybody's got to start somewhere. It doesn't matter how high you are in the hierarchy in the organization. I don't care if you're the fucking CEO of the organization. You have to have training and developing to have a true growth orientation for your company for the future. Because if you're hoping you're just going to bring somebody on board that's going to know what the fuck they're doing, they don't know your organization. They don't know the tribal knowledge that you have to make sure the organization works well. That's some of the stuff that takes time to build. I'm not saying bringing somebody else from the outside isn't a good fit. Your organization should have its own people moving up through the ranks because they know and they see from the front lines what is going on and they have a better idea, a better concept of what should work, what's been done in the past that hasn't worked, and they have a better feed. They have a better pulse on how the organization is running. That's what you should be looking for. And there's nothing, once again, there's nothing wrong if your organization isn't there yet. Developing this and implementing this sooner than later goes a long way. For you as a district manager, for you as a regional director, if you're looking at this and being like, this would be amazing to have, implement it yourself. You don't need to wait for the organization to give you the okay to do something. Do it first and let the organization pick up on what you're doing and start asking you, why the fuck are your people so good? That's what you want. That's where you want to get to. That gets you noticed a lot faster than anything else. A, a really good friend of mine and a great leader of mine had this philosophy of ask for forgiveness, not for permission. It's easier to ask for forgiveness from an organization than it is to ask for permission. Because, oh, it's not in the budget. It's not, we don't have the time frame to be able to do this. We don't have the effort to be able to do this. We're not able to do this at the moment. All right. So think about that. If you have the capabilities and you want to do it and you do it and the organization starts noticing it and they start asking you what you're doing so that you can help implement this at a larger scale, isn't that a much better route to go than constantly complaining about the organization isn't supporting me? There's nothing for me to be able to add to the organization because they won't allow this or they won't allow that. Sometimes you got to take it upon yourself to show them what can be done. Your people are hungry. Your people need a leader. Be the leader your people need. Train and develop. Don't just fall back to, I'm just going to hustle and they're going to pick up from what I do and they're going to learn from what I do. That's the mindset I've talked about where you take a top performer and they fucking suck as a leader because they don't know how to train and develop people. They think that by leading by example, everybody's going to pick up on what they're doing and it's going to click on their head. If that was the case, they would have picked up on that when those people were just individual contributors, not in leadership roles. That's the difference, guys. So don't lead by example and rely on that only. Okay. Focus on developing others. When was the last time that you developed someone instead of just doing something? You don't want to walk into a store and start selling on the field. And that was a mistake that I did when I first got into my first DM role. I would just jump in, do, my quick round of what I needed to do, but then I got stuck in the minutia of being on the field, on the sales floor, selling instead of training my people what to actually do. I was like, I'm going to show them that I can sell. Boom. And it was funny because my regional director at the time, he knew it. He's Omar, I know when you're in the fucking stores because the numbers fucking blow up. You don't answer my fucking calls or my text messages because I know you're fucking busy because the store's numbers are fucking incredible for that day or, for whatever that period is. And that was, I've said it before, that was kind of, it was both a compliment and a slap in the face because as a leader, I shouldn't be doing that. It's not that I'm above that, it's that I'm taking away from developing and training my people by doing that strictly every single time. When you can train and develop your people, even if they're only up to 60% of your capacity, 10 individuals that can do 60% of what you can do, that is 600% more than what you can do on your own. Think about that. So, are you really assisting your people? Or are you being a crutch and holding your people back? Don't fall for the fallacy of you have to lead by example, and that's the only way your people are going to learn. Okay. Leading by example often hides poor leadership habits because you don't know exactly what you're doing or what habits you need as a leader per se, especially when you're first starting off or you're taking on a different role. It's somewhat confusing, especially when your organization doesn't have like a clear path for you to take to train and develop you into that capacity, into that position. Okay. When you lead by example, you become a crutch. You start thinking, you know what? My team doesn't need a coach. I just need results fast. I need to be the one that does everything. I'm going to show them how it's done. And that's that. No. When you do that, it leads your team too much to depend on you. It leads to you being burnt out because you're overexerting yourself and you have no leadership pipeline. You're not developing and training your future leaders to be able to jump into those roles. Think about that. If you're complaining that I'm fucking working too much, I'm working 60, 70, 80 hours as a DM, yes, I get it. We got drive time. Okay. I've had locations that were fucking 4 or 5 hours apart from each other on top of all the other ones I had to visit. I get it. I've been state to state having to go from one location to another location. I understand what that's like. But burning out your capabilities as a leader because you're focusing too much about being on the sales floor instead of training and developing your people, that's not what you need. That's not what your team needs. Because when you burn yourself out from that, that means you also don't have the mental capacity and energy and willpower for the actual leadership tasks that your team needs you for, that your organization is needing you for, that you are needing from yourself. It's like the power of no. You need to know when to say no and limit the amounts of times you say yes to different projects, to different asks. Because once again, you only have so much finite willpower. It's a muscle, but just like any muscle, it's not like you can go on forever. You will get tired. You will overexhaust yourself. You need to know when to cut it and when to go forth. Okay. Real leadership is measured by how your team performs when you're not there. And that's what happens when you're actually training and developing people. When you're leading by example, your team is needing you there to see if they're doing it right, for you to tell them what they're doing correct or they're doing wrong. You're not letting them fail so that they can learn. I don't know if you guys understand that people learn faster when they make their own failures and they can correct course. That's a very important thing for a lot of people to learn, not just for you as a leader, but more importantly for your team that's afraid to fail. They're afraid to make mistakes. That's why they don't always ask the same questions that they're supposed to. That's why they don't go through the entire process for their cells like they're supposed to, because they're afraid that they already know the answer and the answer is going to be no. Well, I'm just going to lead by example and show them that they just need every single no. I'm going to do it for them. That's great. Kind of goes back to the 15-minute framework. The difference between you coaching somebody and asking them the questions and you telling somebody what goals are going to hit, what process they're going to take, what action steps they're going to take. When you tell them, they don't take ownership. They have no ownership whatsoever. So it doesn't weigh on them to hit those goals. Okay. That's why when you do like physical training, they ask you what your goals are, what you want to attain. And you kind of go back from there and you start working through your action plans. What actual exercises you're going to do, how many times you're going to do them, when are you going to do them? And obviously go into a little bit more than that. But that's the gist of it. Okay. Now, sustainable performance comes from having systems. Leading by example, that being your only leadership style, that's not sustainable because you can't be at all places. You're not physically able to be at all locations. Oh, I'll just jump on a Zoom. No, stop fucking around with the fucking calls every single morning, wasting people's times. You don't need to do three fucking calls a day to check up and see what's everybody doing. Stop micromanaging. If you're doing that, you're not training and developing your people because you have no trust in your people and your people have no trust in you. Training and developing your people also helps to build trust because you know it's gonna get done. You know that you've trained them on this. They've exuded this example. They've done it on their own. They're capable of doing it. You have to give them that space so that they can actually do things on their own and build that habit, build that routine, build that muscle. Remember, guys, this is all about building those synaptic connections. You're physically changing the way people can think and are thinking. And that's what we want them. We want them to have more brain power. We want them to think more. We want them to process their own information. We want them to come to their own conclusions. When they start doing that, they start feeling as a true leader. When your salespeople start doing that, they feel that they're more in control over what's going on, what they're doing. And then they start to see that there's more possibilities for them within the organization, or there's more possibilities for them, period, as a career. That's what you want to get to. Now, you can't example your way to scalable success. So stop leading by example as your only leadership trait, as your only leadership approach. You need a coaching system. You need something that's repeatable. Coaching systems build repeatable behaviors, and that's what you need from your people. If you're wondering, how am I going to do this? I don't have anything set up. Take a look at the link in the bio. Take a look at the video description. Grab the link there, right? Obviously, depending on where you're watching this video. Grab that 15-minute framework and start using it. It's a one-sheet page. It'll walk you through the process. And it's a very easy, attainable way to go for a lot of people. It breaks it down from goal setting to visualization practices to a commitment. And that'll get you there sooner than later in helping to build not just your coaching system, but also repeatable behaviors in your salespeople, repeatable behaviors in your local leaders. Because as a DM, as a regional, this is you training the trainers, training your sales leaders in the field to be able to do this on their own as well. Because when they can do that, that frees up your time, allows you to focus on other things, especially when you're talking about growth. Or in these current times, when we know around the corner it's going to get a little bit harder to hit the numbers that we are used to hitting or to hit the numbers that we've been hitting. Right now, we might have a little bump, right? A little spike in performance because everybody's trying to make sure that they get what they get before either it's not available or prices go up, before they lose, potential incomes. So right now we're seeing a little bit of a mix, but I'm telling you, in a little bit of time, if things don't change course, you're going to need to have your people focused on training and developing because you're not going to have as many people walking through the doors. You're not going to have as many opportunities coming to you. That is what you need to look for. That's where you have to train and develop your people. that's going to go a long way. Right now, as a leader, you do not want to be losing people because a lot of people, yes, they're jobs that are being marketed, but you know as well as I do, a lot of your companies are holding back, waiting to see what's around the corner. They want to see what exactly is going to hit and how it's going to impact the bottom line before they really give you that headcount from the individuals you lost. So in the meantime, you're rotating your people within locations. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So focus on training, focus on developing your people. Be the leader that your people need you to be. And once again, if you're trying to figure out what to do, how to do it, an easy first step is to grab that 15-minute framework, links in the bio, the videos and the link in the video description. Grab it, use it. And if you have any questions, I mean, feel free, reach out. I'm only an email or comment away. Um, and it'll give you the ability to actually empower your people to be able to step up because they have somebody who's done something that they haven't had in their past, which is spend time training them, developing them, coaching them, giving a damn about how they're doing instead of just focusing in on numbers, instead of just telling them you're not doing anything that's good enough, instead of being like, I do this better than you do. Don't be that leader. Be the leader that gives a damn about your people and trains and develops them, guides them towards a better tomorrow. With that said, guys, I want to say thank you once again for stepping in to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm Omar, and I'll catch you on the next one.